A couple of weeks ago, this company, Mellif, reached out to me and said, we make tools that work with the big battery systems, specifically Milwaukee, Bosch, DeWalt, and Makita. And we like what you're doing on the channel. We want to send you a tool to take a look at, give your honest review of it. So I looked through the tools that they had and said, your little air blower looks interesting. I'd like to take a look at that. They said, okay, send it out right away. And then I have been sitting on it for weeks now because I have been busy with real life and with other things on the channel. And so I'm just now getting a chance to take a look at it. In this video, I'm gonna take a look at it, see how it's built. I'm gonna tear it apart and put it through its paces and see if it's really worth your hard-earned money. Now, Mellif did send this to me at no cost to me, but there was no other mention of consideration, sponsorship, or payment. Basically, I got a $34 tool. I didn't have to pay for it, and I can do whatever I want to after I make the video. So I do want to point that out. This is potentially not a truly unbiased review because I did not pay my hard-earned money for this, and I want to make sure that you are aware of that. That being said, it is a $34 tool as of the time of recording this in October of 2025, so keep that in mind as we look at it. This is a DeWalt version, so it works with the DeWalt battery system. They do make it in other battery systems, so you can also get this for Milwaukee, Makita, and Bosch as well. I tried to get some information on Mellif themselves. About all I was able to find out is they're a Chinese-based company, and they make these in China. Not a huge surprise. Almost all of the tools that we have today are made in China. And I repeatedly said, is there anything that you would like me to tell my audience about Mellif, the company? And they just never responded, which I find interesting. So I can't really tell you much about the company. Now, they claim that they have proprietary technology in this that will protect and keep your expensive Milwaukee, Makita, Bosch, or DeWalt battery safe. And we're going to take this apart and we're going to see if we can find any evidence to that effect. This also claims to be a brushless tool, and it's pretty lightweight. So we're going to take it, when we take it apart, we're going to see if that is a true claim as well. You get a few accessories in the box. We'll take a closer look at those, and we'll see how this stacks up. We'll also put it through its paces and see what it's capable of doing. So come along as we tear apart this tool, see what makes it tick. And here is the cordless air blower. I have not opened the inner box. I only opened the outer box to make sure that I had the product in here and to take any stickers off that might have my name and or address on them. No doxing, please. So we are going to get to take a look at this together. This is just a box, and in here is another pretty plain box. So let's get into it and see what's inside. So here we go. Here is the box in its entirety. We will open it to find an instruction manual. I'm assuming a crevice tool, a little section of hose, some various adapters and fittings. I'm not sure exactly what those are for, maybe to shape the air. We'll get into these in a minute. And then the tool itself and a nice piece of foam that it sits in. We'll get rid of the box. And in mighty imitation black and yellow, we have the cordless blower itself. 18 volt, 20 volt. It says 1.1 cubic meters per minute. It's fairly light in the hand. It doesn't feel terrible. It's not the best feeling tool I've ever felt, but I felt a lot worse. It doesn't seem to rattle, doesn't seem to flex too much, a little bit of give. We'll take a closer look at it. So that is what you get in the box. Looking quickly at the instructions, they're actually pretty reasonably written. In well-written English, I didn't see anything that was unclear. The only pictures you get are back here. And I will say that this mechanism, while it does appear to work to attach the different tips, it's a little clunky and confusing. Took me a minute to figure out, but I've seen far worse instructions. These aren't bad. If we bring a genuine DeWalt drill in, this is a DCD 777, you can see that while from a distance, you're very close, this is much more orange and this is much more yellow. So I'm gonna say that it is more pronounced on video, the color difference, than in real life, but it is definitely only gonna be mistaken from across the room for a genuine DeWalt. Taking a closer look at the blower, we've got a nice little display here. We've got the blower itself. Again, as I said, it feels reasonably good in the hands. It does have what appear to be, I think those might be star drive, maybe Torx screws. We're going to take it apart and see what's inside. It is pretty lightweight. Like, it doesn't quite feel the same in your hand as that DeWalt drill. So it's definitely lacking some gravity. Now, I can't say if that is a good thing or a bad thing yet because I haven't put a battery in it yet. I don't know how well it's going to work. I guess it could be a good thing if it's lightweight. It's not too much to carry. I mean, it doesn't feel too rattly as I shake it around. My one nit to pick so far is, as a left-handed person, I don't like this arrangement. You have an unlock button, lock from this side, but you cannot actuate the trigger unless you push this in, which you really want to do right-handed. I want to hold it in my left hand, and it is not comfortable to push that button and then actuate the trigger. So that is a miss for me. I much prefer a clicky, like on off, or just delete this entirely because this is a blower. I don't know that I care that it has a safety. When I take it apart, I might see if this could be removed because that is just going to get me swearing as I use this thing. This connector is definitely kind of fiddly for putting in the different attachments. So we'll look at this a little bit more closely, but this was not intuitive. But it does twist and come off of there. You've got a spring that holds everything nice and tight. And then you've got some different, if I can show this on the video, you've got some different detents here that everything twists and locks into. So I guess that's kind of an interesting and creative way to get the different attachments on, but you'll have to fiddle with it for a minute because it is not intuitive. There we go. All right, let's get a battery in it, see if it works. Putting a battery in it, I am just using a little, I think it's a 2 amp hour power stack battery, and you can definitely see there is a color difference there. It does sit nicely. It's top heavy, but that battery has got, honestly, it really pulls a lot of the weight down to the bottom. If we check the buttons here, it doesn't seem to do anything, and it is a fully charged battery, as evidenced by the lights. So there feels like there's a button under there, but it is not doing anything, even if I push and hold these buttons. So I am not 100% sure if that does anything, or if it only does anything once this is running, or if it's just for show. Might have to take a look at the manual, but for now, let's push this and pull the trigger and see what happens. So it does blow, and that comes on. It is in high mode. I'm assuming high, medium, low, and it was blowing all right. I know it looks like it's a mess, but I don't have much dust on this worktop right this minute, so I don't know how well it's blowing across there. So I guess it works. It's not terribly loud. Let's put some dust on here and see if it'll blow it away. All right, so added some dust. Let's see if this will blow the dust. Okay, so it blows the dust, and when that light is on, clicking those buttons allows you to cycle through the intensity. So I think I left it on medium. Let's see. Yep, so that's medium. And that is low. That's high. So it only shows me 2 bars here. I still have 3. Again, this is just a little 2 amp hour battery. So I don't know how much it's really dropping it, because you've seen me the entire time I have used it. That is how much I've used it. I don't really like this arrangement. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I am curious if this will lock the tool on, or if pushing this over when it's on will lock it on. So let's try that. Okay. So this is a lock-on feature. You have to push this button over so you can actuate the trigger, and then while the trigger is depressed, you can push this and it will stay locked on, which is good, I guess. Again, as a left-handed person, I don't want to use this in my right hand, and it's going to be kind of a pain to use in my left hand. It would be nice if there was a way that they could have put this on either side or done some alternate arrangement with the trigger lock. It does have an LED here, and I didn't pay any attention to it when I was first fiddling with it, so let's see if it's any good. I'm going to say this LED is next to useless. Unless you were in a pitch black area, you would not see anything with that. I think that's just a gimmick. Honestly, delete that. There's no reason for it to be there. It's just costing a little bit extra because they have to put an LED in. They have to put the wiring in. They have to make this little lens. Save a couple of bucks. It's already an inexpensive tool. That is not doing anything. I'm going to attempt to show how this nozzle clips on here. It's a little non-intuitive. You have these little tabs and they have a lock-unlock icon. And if you put them on, it kind of just clicks in there. There's a little bit of a ring here, or a clip, a ledge. I don't know if you can see that on the video, that those tabs clip over and then they just sit on this. It almost feels like this is supposed to twist or the nozzle is supposed to go on the inside, but it doesn't. And then I will say it's reasonably affixed on there. I could probably wrench it off if I pulled really hard on it, but I mean, just casually, it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. Then to take it off, I guess you pull down on this, which allows you to twist this 90 degrees, and then it comes up. So I will try and zoom in on this so that you can see this little detail in this plastic molding. I don't know how well that will read on camera. It works okay. Once you know how to do it, it's fine. But if you just threw this at somebody and said, take this off, I don't know that they would know how to take it off. Or if you threw it at somebody and said, put it on, I don't know that they would get it the first time. It takes a minute to figure it out. But let's zoom in and see this up close. And here is what that mechanism looks like up close. Again, I don't know if you can see that little detail super clearly, but if you push this on like that, those little, I guess, what do you call them, tabs open up and clip over, and then to get them off, you twist like this. Again, it seems reasonably, oh, there we go. I didn't have it all the way on. It seems reasonably secure. You just got to make sure you push it all the way in so that they go over and then clip. So again, like, not super intuitive. It works okay, but I guess good enough. Again, this is not a super expensive tool. It's all right. So it comes with different tips. I'm not sure exactly what they recommend each tip be used for because it doesn't say in the manual. So I picked the more condensed tip here. So this is the smaller tip that's clearly not designed to inflate like rafts and whatnot. I obviously have a big pile of sawdust at the other end of that tape measure, and although the camera can't see straight down, if I hold the blower about here, the back of the blower is about 80 inches away from the end of the tape. So I thought I would see just what it does from 80 inches away. Well, I guess less the distance of the tool, call it 74 inches, 76 inches, something like that. So if we point it over there and press the go button, well, it's not really blowing that pile of sawdust. I have to get quite a bit closer before I can move it around. Now, when I get closer, obviously it's going to move it around quite a bit. But if I come to here, which is about 3 feet away, it does a much better job of blowing that around. You could get controlled with it, and maybe using a different tip would work a little bit better. I don't know if this would be the best tool for dusting out a garage floor or a shop floor. It does okay, probably not what it's really intended to use it for. Interestingly, while I was just filming that showing the dusting power across the room, I got a pop-up on my Apple Watch saying that I am in a loud environment over 90 decibels. It doesn't really feel like it's painful to the ear, and obviously I'm holding it in my left hand, so my Apple Watch is probably hearing a louder noise than what my ears are hearing, but I guess that is something to pay attention to. Like all things that you use in a workshop, PPE is important, and if you have any issues with hearing, it's always good to have, earplugs, earmuffs, or something in to help protect your hearing. I hate showing this a little bit because it is a huge mess, as you can see from all of the dust and offcuts, and just the shop is an absolute wreck right now. I really need to spend a day or 6 cleaning, but I thought this might be a more appropriate place to use this little duster inside of more of a contained area like this. So I thought I would see how it does, just sort of blowing all of this dust and maybe getting it out from around the miter saw station, which is normally what I do with my airline, is I'll blow this all out and then I'll vacuum up the dust from the floor or otherwise get the dust picked up. So let's see what this does. Okay, so that worked a lot better, and I don't know if it's gonna come across on the video, but now there is dust all over the place in the air, so that was probably not a great idea. I don't know if I have as much control, maybe if I turn it down to low, because that was blowing way too hard. So let's turn it to low and see if that's any better. Okay, that's much more controllable, and it still kicks up a lot of dust, but it's more like what I would use the duster for, not the duster, it's more what I would use my air hose for, where I can feather it and have a little bit more control, because I don't need it to go full chooch on this. I just really want it to kind of blow things out so I can clear off all of the dust, and that on low works much better. Too powerful on high, just right on low. So a bit of a Goldilocks. Unfortunately, you don't get any control with the trigger, so there is no variability. It's just once you hit the on, it's on, whatever speed you have it set down here. That could be better, I guess. They could make this a variable trigger. That would be better. But it does work. It can serve as a duster for things in the shop. So if you give the fine folks from Mellif your $34, what do you get in the box? Well, you get the tool, you get an extension hose, which actually would probably do a good job for inflating rafts or other type of little things that you would take to a pool. You get an extension tube that is about 2 feet long. This goes over the end of the tool, and then you get another quick release system on this end. Looks like it works exactly the same. You get the little detent spring and everything. And you get 5 nozzles of various sizes. You get sort of this wide fan nozzle. You get, I'm assuming, an air accelerator nozzle. And I'll put close-ups of these on the screen, where you have a small tip and then you have what I'm assuming are slits that give you a bit of a Venturi effect to speed air up. You get a slightly restricted but still fairly wide nozzle, a slightly more restricted nozzle, and then again, what I'm assuming would fill up pool toys and things like that, where it would go into the little plastic opening that you would use to inflate and then blows out the side here. So that's what you get. Currently, as I record this in October of 2025, you can get this on Amazon for $33.99. And that is not a sponsored price, and any links below will not be sponsored links. They did send me this tool at no cost to look at, to evaluate, and to do a video on. But other than that, there is no sponsorship, there is no other consideration that Mellif has given me. All right, so let's take a little bit closer look at the different nozzles. So each nozzle is about 2¼ inches tall. This biggest opening is going to be a little over a 1/2 inch, maybe exactly a 1/2 inch opening. Then you have this slightly smaller one, which looks to be a 1/4 inch opening, but it is still the same 2 1/4 tall. You have this fan. This one is the longest at almost 4 inches. Call it 3 13/16, 3 7/8. I don't really know the best way to measure that. This is going to be a 1/4 inch wide, but then you have this wide fan slit there. You have this nozzle, which a little bit longer. It is, again, 2 7/8. I'm assuming that that is designed to jam down into like a pool toy or some other sort of inflatable and inflate it. And then this is the nozzle that looks like it might be a bit of a Venturi effect. And if we measure that, that is just under 2.5 inches tall. And then it has the center hole with the 3 surrounding holes. I don't know that that actually gives you a Venturi effect like I've seen with other adapters, but I'm assuming that that's what that's going for. And then there's also this tube for inflating, I'm assuming pool toys, and it has a opening that is, let's call it a 1/4 inch, looks like a 1/4 inch. And then the entire tube is a little over 2 feet long. That clips onto the tool, and then you can inflate your pool toys, rafts, whatnot. All right, so let's get into this and see how it is built on the inside. It appears that all of the external screws are Torx 10, and I can get to almost all of them with my iFixit precision bit. Not sponsored, just happen to have this kit, except for this one, which is buried down in here. So fortunately, I have a long Torx Allen wrench, or I guess L wrench. So we're just gonna use this. So none of this iFixit stuff. So let's crack it open and see what we see. And as soon as I say none of this iFixit stuff, I may have changed my mind because that's a little hard to unscrew. Let's just get these out and see what's inside. And hopefully this doesn't go springing all apart and we have to go chase down parts from the inside. I'm hoping that the only spring is right here. The other thing I think is interesting is it proudly calls out on this side that this is brushless. It's the only place that I see it. I don't remember seeing it in the manual, but to be honest, I wasn't reading the manual word for word. I'm curious if it really will be a brushless motor once we get into it. If it is, that's pretty impressive that they're putting brushless motors into tools at this price point, which is why I am just a little skeptical that it's gonna have a brushless motor in it. I would love to be proven wrong, but I remain skeptical. I have experienced lots of times where features called out on packaging did not live up to actual features included, and have done plenty of testing in my day job on claims made by manufacturers versus what was really delivered. So let's see if we can get these screws out. And the good news is all of the screws seem to be the same size. This one doesn't want to come out of the housing, but it is out of there. So I noticed as I was flipping it over and trying to get that screw out that it seems like the housing is splitting apart reasonably well. I should have probably mentioned this. There is supposed to be an air filter here, and if we turn this, I think we're going to need to take that out in order to take this apart. And then there is filter material here that they specifically call out needing to clean in the manual. So that's kind of nice. And then we have some more filter material tucked behind these grills, which I'm assuming we'll get out as we pry this apart. So, and it's a good sign nothing is jumping out at me. So let's take a look here at the casing, and it honestly looks pretty good. Now, I am certainly not an expert at looking at these cases and saying it is or isn't well built. Oh, interesting. So it is multiple parts. So this is a completely separate piece. It's not molded as one. There is some overmolding here. That is the black part. I am not seeing any marks on what this material is, and it doesn't feel incredibly stiff, like it's reasonably stiff, but I don't know if it's glass fiber filled. There we go, got that last screw out. Let's find a utility knife and see if we can hear any of those fibers getting cut. I'll be right back. Okay, didn't find a utility knife, but I've got a pocket knife, so let's see if we can hear anything here as we kind of cut at it. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it definitely has glass fiber in there. You can hear those little fibers getting cut. So it is a glass fiber enforced plastic. I am not enough of a materials person to be able to tell exactly what it is at a glance without any sort of marks, which I do not see. I think it's just that the ridges aren't especially pronounced, and that's what sort of makes it feel a little twisty, and the fact that this is a completely separate part. When I was sort of flexing it to begin with, the only part that even felt a little bit like it was flexing was down here where the battery goes, and that is probably the weak part. And I think I know why they're doing this. So one of Mellif's things is they make tools that are independent of battery platforms. And I would bet dimes to donuts that this is the DeWalt piece, but they also have a Bosch. I know they have a Bosch. I don't remember what the other ones have, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But I bet they just make a different piece in a different colored plastic. And then for the Bosch, it's Bosch green. And then they have a Bosch battery adapter in Bosch green. And then it's the exact same tool with just a different piece. And that's smart because then it means they don't have to have a separate mold for the entire tool for the different battery platforms, because these molds are very expensive to make. They just have this mold that is shot with different colors, and then they have a mold for each battery platform. So I'm willing to bet that's why they do that. And that's probably why that makes that feel just a little rickety. Moving on to the tool, let's see what we've got here. Now, one of Mellif's claims is that they have proprietary technology that will safely monitor and not destroy your batteries. I am not equipped to be able to test that claim. I do know that official batteries from the big battery manufacturers have built-in safety within them. So in theory, the batteries should be safe. But I just want to say right up front, your mileage may vary, and this is not an OEM tool, so you can never be 100% sure. But looking at the tool itself, I don't see anything that is shocking or alarming, but there are also some things that I don't see that I would like to see. Like, I'm not seeing any sort of like silicone to hold any parts down. But like, I do see some nice heat shrink on the wires that run up here to the motor. The switch, oh, that's a miss. This is just screwed on. So if these aren't Loctited, and we'll try and take these out and take a look at them, over time, those could loosen up, and then that's gonna work its way out. And if you're not okay with taking apart your tools, it might just die and you don't know why. I would much prefer to see like a ferrule or a ring that is crimped on there and then attached under here, or soldered, or spade connectors. I don't love seeing that. Let's get a little Phillips or flathead and take this apart and see if there's any Loctite in there. All right, so let's take this out, and yeah, there is no Loctite. It is just a little, and it's tinned, which I don't think is best practice. I think you want to leave untinned wire under these. Now, this is a battery-powered tool. It's probably not switching any significant current through the switch. I'm not sure exactly what the circuit looks like. All of the brains are in here, and it is potted. So again, it's probably not going to burn your house down, but I would much rather see that affixed a different way. Probably not the end of the world, but not ideal. And let's see if I can do this and get this screwed back in. As far as the switch goes, I am not seeing any marks on it as far as who makes it, so it is probably not a brand switch. It has a little bit of a click and a kerchunk, and I thought that was interesting. There must have been a little bit of energy stored in this capacitor, because when I clicked it, I saw this light flicker very briefly. It's just an on-off. It doesn't feel bad, but it doesn't feel amazing. It's just a clicky switch. And then this is built into the switch. So there's not really a way with this particular switch to make this ambidextrous. And if we pull this piece out, this is our safety piece, that would sit over here like this. So this has to get moved out of the way so that this can actuate. I may just delete this when I put it back together. That may, oops, I don't know what, it fell on the floor. Can't put it back together. Then we've got the wires down here to the brain box, the battery connection. So let's just pull all of this out. And there we go. So we have a potted, yep, that's potted with some sort of a rubber potting. We have surface mount LEDs here that shine through this, and a little momentary switch on top. It looks like there is some sort of a board connector here, probably for programming or diagnostics or testing at the factory. That seems like it is well strain relieved, so that is a good thing. We've got some chips that stick up through the potting a bit, but it is completely covered, so I can't read what it says. We've got the black and red that come out, and that goes up to the little LED. We've got the yellow leads that come up to the switch, and then we have black, red, and white that go up to the motor. And the fact that there are 3 is encouraging that this probably is a brushless motor. We'll get into this in a minute, but we don't just have a black and red going up there, so odds are maybe it really is brushless. And then we have our input, and yeah, here is the dirty little secret. So it has all of these tabs, like it is going to read the battery. And where did my battery get to? Like it is going to read this battery, and it is going to be able to have all of the connections and talk to the battery. But when we take it apart, we just see our positive and negative soldered on there, which means they might be doing something to try and measure the voltage of the battery to not run it when it shouldn't. But I think that you're going to need to rely on the battery management inside the battery to not over drain your batteries. Again, it's a $34 tool. I don't know how you get around that. It's kind of hard to imagine that they're able to engineer that in at that price point. But I don't see how they're able to do anything other than maybe some educated guessing inside of here based on the voltage. They can't measure anything else off of the battery. So that's a shame. Again, not terribly surprised, but if you're going to talk about how you have all of this technology to monitor the batteries and keep them protected, it would be nice to know what that is about. So I will have to look into that, but that is this end of it. And then if we pry up our motor, this is shockingly light. And I'm not sure if there is a way to get into this. Let's try taking this apart, or if this is all glued together. So from the back here, we have what almost looks like a little squirrel cage fan. And oh, there we go. So we take this off. This has just got a little bit of foam on it, I'm assuming to act as a vibration reduction. This is most likely an aluminum cap. It's pretty thin, but it's stamped, and it's got a lot of geometry to it so that it's not flexing, it's pretty rigid. We see our press fit. This is the blower. We have some fins here. And even though I've operated it with the filters in place, there's definitely some dust and dirt in here. I don't know. Oh, there we go. That will come out of there. So then this is just a piece of plastic that channels the air and blows it through. Seems to be well made. Again, I'm not sure what it's made from. My guess would be ABS. Let's see if we can hear any glass fibers. Well, I can hear fibers getting cut, so maybe a glass fiber. I don't know if it's a nylon or an ABS. I'm not sure if they can put glass fiber in ABS. Again, not a materials engineer. Oh, and it's 2 parts, so this part comes out. So this has definitely got glass reinforced fibers in it. Let's see if this does. Yep, and it does. So the good news is all of the parts that I have tested have sound like anyway, that they have some glass fibers in them. I don't know the percentages, and I'm not sure the composition. This is reasonably sturdy, but again, the only part that's sticking out of the tool is that. This is nice and sturdy. I'm not so concerned about this getting damaged. And then look at that. It is a tiny, tiny little motor. Yep, we've got our 3 leads going into it. I don't know enough about motors to speak much beyond that. We've got a little plastic cage here and our windings. Let's find a Phillips bit and take this apart and get all the way in here and see what secrets it has to reveal. And again, this plastic piece that is the has the veins on it that I'm assuming are shaping the air input because it's coming from the back, seems to be made out of the same material that this is made out of. I haven't cut into it, but everything that I have cut into sounds like it has glass fibers. I would not be surprised that this does as well. I will say it does seem like they have put some effort in to not make this complete garbage, which is always something that you have to be concerned about when you're getting super budget tools. You just never know. And there we can see our tiny little bearing at the back here. And then the motor assembly, which I don't know if I can take completely off because it is pressed onto this. But that is a tiny, tiny little motor. Yeah, that's a brushless motor. So confirmed it is a brushless motor. And I have to say, I am impressed that at this price point, it's a little guy, but it actually is a brushless motor. That's kind of impressive. So way to go, Mellif. All right, let's put it back together, see if it still works or if I have managed to kill it. And hopefully it goes back together as easily as it came apart. You know what I didn't do? They claim that this spins at 50,000 RPM. I'm curious if there's a way we can use our digital tachometer or our optical tachometer to measure that. Let's see if that's possible. All right, I don't recommend doing this normally. I am gonna see if I can do this with it all apart here. So let's give it a go and see if it still runs. Good news, it still runs, but we are on low speed, so let's switch it back to high. And then let's see if we can get a measurement off of this. Now, normally you need to put a dot for this to read. We're gonna see if we can do it without. Let me see if I can put everything in frame all at the same time. Well, we got a result. I don't know that I fully believe it. 83,232 RPM? If that's, let's do that again. So the second time I did it, it actually read high, which means that it's faster than this can read, which I believe is 100,000 RPM. That seems suspicious. Let's set this to low. Let's see what we get on low. Okay, so on low, I'm getting 65,524 RPM, and that seems to be pretty consistent. Like it was wandering and drifting a bit, but okay, I'm impressed. Let's do that again just to make sure. Like I'm a skeptic here. Like. Okay, there we go. 65,000 RPM on low. Let's try medium. So on medium, I'm getting 75,378 RPM. I mean, and that's faster. That was my low. Yep, that was my low, was 15 as it was coming up. 75,000 and change. And then let's try it on high. And maybe it really is faster than this can detect. Okay, and I'm getting almost 83,000, 82,792 RPM. It exceeds its claims. I had no expectation it was going to do that, so thumbs up for that. That is a little impressive. Wouldn't have bet that. Was not on my bingo card. Okay, let's get this all put back together. Oh, and I don't think I showed it, but both sides work the same way. That comes off on this side. It also comes off right here. Again, I bet dimes to donuts it's because they just have one molding and they use it for different tools. All right. Oh yeah, and we have lost our little safety switch here. This all lined up. Might be easier said than done. And again, I don't remember if I said it, but all of the screws are the same length, which is really nice. There's nothing worse than when you get something apart and there are 10 different size screws. You got to keep track of which screw came from which place. I'm going to say that it was an engineer who thought ahead and intentfully made it so that all these screws are the same length. It probably wasn't that. I'm probably giving more credit than credit is due. You know, we've got to make everything as cost efficient as possible, which, as somebody who is going to work on this stuff, I do appreciate. You don't see it in so many things. I wish I had a way to measure their claim of 1.1 cubic meters per minute. I'm sure there might be a way to set up an at-home testing rig for that, but I'm not sure what that would be. And I don't think I'm going to go all the way to that extent. All right, so how did it go back together? I'll give it a B+, and that might be more me than the tool. I've got a little bit of a gap here, which I don't know if you can see, and I have these screwed down pretty well, so if I tighten it up a little bit, it'll come together a tiny bit more. That is much better. I can lock it, but I don't have this left-handed, right-handed nonsense. It's a darn shame that piece it got lost. I don't know what happened to it. Well, we know it should run because we already did this, but let's give it a, hey, there we go. Works just fine. Let's put our filters back in. Let's get this piece put back in. All right, yeah. Back together. Like I said, they make a claim somewhere, I think in the manual, 50,000 RPM, and that's conservative. Good job. I still don't love this mechanism. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just not great. So I've had a look through the manual, and I was mistaken. It does not mention the RPM anywhere in the manual. Where I actually saw that is on their Amazon page. It says in the official description that it is 50,000 RPM. I don't know if they put that on there because it sounds impressive. I don't know if they thought that the real RPM numbers that I measured would sound not real. I'm not really sure where that comes from, but that's where I saw that. Measured it higher than that. I just wanted to close the loop on that. All right, so what's the use case? I think that this would be fine for dusting off like the miter saw station or maybe the desktop, the worktop of my workbench here. I think the sweet spot for this might be inflating pool toys, rafts, and things like that. We did a family trip this summer and went rafting down a local river, and we spent an awful lot of time trying to find an outlet where the put-in for the river was so that we could get our rafts blown up. And I think something like this would have worked great. I have a truck and it has an outlet in it, but it wasn't powerful enough to run my air compressor. So bringing a couple of batteries, whether they're DeWalt, whether they're Hitachi, whatever the brands, Bosch, that Mellif supports, could have been a nice way to do it. I just have the headrest of a pool toy just to see how good of a job it does to inflate this. So I've got this long nozzle on. Let's see what it does. A whole lot of nothing, because interestingly, there are holes right here, and I'm guessing there's too much back pressure. I wasn't expecting that. So maybe this is not a tool to inflate pool toys. I'm not really sure what this is for. Let's try this one. And again, I don't know that I love this mechanism to put the nozzles on, but this is the nozzle that just comes out and flares, and it has 2 outlets. In theory, I should be able to, shove this in here and get a good seal. All right, let's try this one. So that actually worked pretty well once I got the right attachment on. I am not now sure what this is for, because in looking at it, it sure does have holes in here. I have no idea. I guess I am gonna have to read the manual. I think it works well for something like this. Again, it's $34, and I don't even know if that's on sale. That's just when I happened to look today, October 26th on Amazon, because to be honest, I don't know how much this cost. Mellif reached out and asked if I wanted to try one, evaluate it, and make a video about it, and I said sure. Partly because it'd be nice to be able to inflate stuff like this, dust off stuff around the shop, and that's why I said yes. Would I buy this? That's an interesting question. I tend to be pretty loyal to the tool platforms that I have batteries for, and that for me is DeWalt. I have some Bosch, and I have some Ryobi. And coincidentally, I have some Bosch tools, I have some Ryobi tools, and I have some quite a few DeWalt tools. I would probably not purchase this without having a chance to evaluate it first. It wouldn't be my go-to. That being said, I don't know if DeWalt has anything quite like this, and if they did, it's probably going to be substantially more than $34. So from that standpoint, maybe. If I only used it to inflate stuff when we go down to the river to do family raft trips, it would be well worth the $34, $35 plus taking a load of charged batteries. Now that being said, I don't know how long this would run on this little 2 amp hour battery. I don't know how long it would run on a 5 amp hour battery. And I would be slightly concerned that if the management inside of the battery didn't work, it could damage what's going to be a fairly expensive DeWalt battery. I mean, this little 2 amp hour power stack, I think I paid $99 for 2. This is a third of that price. So I wouldn't want to damage a battery that costs as much or more than this entire tool. I need to do a little bit more research on the claims that Mellif is making about how they are protecting the batteries that are getting put into them and using them. They say that they have that, but I don't know what that is, especially since in looking at the inside, we definitely saw that only the power and ground pins are connected. They put the other 2 on there, but they're not connected. So to me, that seems a little suspicious, like, hey, we're safe for your batteries, trust us, don't worry. But then they're not really connected to anything. I'm interrupting the video because I did hear back from Mellif about how they're protecting the battery in their circuitry. And I was right. They're not doing any actual monitoring of the battery. They have software inside of their chip that's monitoring the battery's voltage. And when it determines that the battery voltage is too low, it turns the tool off. Now, that's probably okay, but it's not as good as actually monitoring the battery like an OEM tool would. And you're reliant on the battery protection circuitry inside of your battery platform to really be your final fail-safe. Now they work with DeWalt, Milwaukee, Bosch, and Makita. And as far as I'm aware, all of those battery platforms do have battery management systems and should, the keyword being should, protect the battery from being excessively drained. But you are reliant on Mellif's engineers doing enough testing and having enough proper battery voltage drop curves and a big enough database to know when it is safe to run the tool and when they should turn it off. I probably would still use it, but I would be careful not to run to battery exhaustion, or as soon as the battery turns off, the tool turns off using the battery, I would probably stop at that point and not continue to push it. Where I have been known to try and get a few extra goes out of the battery when my DeWalt tools turn off. Because I know there's still a little bit more left in that battery, and I'm trusting that DeWalt will have the intelligence between the tool and the battery to not let me do something stupid. I'm not going to fully trust that with Mellif. They did provide a link to some testing that they've done, I believe, on a Milwaukee tool, so I will put a link up in one of the corners to that video so you can watch that if you choose. But I did want to make a quick announcement after I had heard back from Mellif on what they're doing to protect the batteries with their circuitry. Again, there's not much you can do if you only have your ground and positive. You can only really monitor for voltage drop and try and intelligently balance in software to decide when low is too low and to turn off the tool. So anyway, back to the video. So yeah, interesting tool. Don't know if it's going to do what I want it to do in the workshop vis-a-vis cleaning up and dusting things. I think it might work to throw in the truck when we take family trips, or if we just need to air up pool toys. I could see it being useful for that. So from that standpoint, at 35 bucks, it's a maybe. I'm not going to say that it is a terrible tool. It seems to be well put together. There's definitely been some thought and some care in creating the mold and the case and assembling it. Like, I didn't see anything egregious when I took it apart. The motor speeds actually surprised me. It really is a brushless motor, which in a $35 tool, that's kind of cool. It's interesting that we have gotten supply chains and manufacturing optimized to the point that they can do that. So I guess that's what I have to say about this Mellif air blower cordless. It's fine. And if you have a need similar to what mine would be, it might be a real good choice for you. It's only after I finished the review that I finally understood what this is for. This doesn't go on the front like I thought to give you an extension. You take this grill off the back, and then this goes into the tab like that, and then you can put an attachment on it, and it would be to empty the air out of something like your inflated toy. So you can could put on the attachment that you used to inflate it. In fact, let's just give it a try and see how it works, because I need to deflate these and they're kind of a pain in the neck to do. Interestingly, that doesn't want to twist in there, or I'm not doing something right. Oh, there we go. It will twist in there. It's just a tight fit. Probably isn't related to the fact that we took this tool apart and put it back together. Shh, don't tell. Let's put that in there and see if we can deflate it quick and fast. Okay, that's actually pretty nice. I like that. I'm slightly changing my opinion. Like, that capability to be able to suck these for storage and empty all the air out for $35, maybe it's tipping me in the other direction, because getting all this stuff deflated to put away to travel home, kind of a pain in the neck. I like that. That one little piece, that got me. The brushless motor, the fact that the RPMs exceed what is on their Amazon listing, and the fact that I can empty out whatever it is that I have put air into from the backside, I like it. That got me, obviously. That was the thing. Anyway, if you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the thumbs up button. And if you like the kind of stuff that you see around here, maybe consider subscribing. Thanks so much for watching.